where my property rights were injured, and I went to court, and I've been in court for 5 years, and we're just going to start the first trial. And the value, even if I make that claim today, and you consider the erosion in value in terms of time value of money, what I'll be getting maybe 25% of what I actually parted with. So that's real. How long does it take to register your property rights, title? It's still very long. Apart from a place like Lagos, where the process is very relatively straight, and Abuja, where you have ages. In other states, you need governor's consent. And governor's consent will take decades to get. So these are real, and the questions that National Competitive Council of Nigeria should be addressing are, how do we further improve, how do we address it, so that by the next ranking of 2015, 2017 comes out, our ranking should improve, and not to deny that these issues are there.
So do you think the ongoing political and economic reforms by the present administration, if sustained, could reposition Nigeria in the next 5 years in the GCI?
I think it will in the next couple of years. Maybe 5 years may be too short, but obviously it will have some impact. If you take, for instance, the agricultural reform process going on, you see that a lot of improvement in agricultural value chain is taking place. You've seen that mechanized and commercial agriculture is actually coming to the country. So over time, the agricultural production will increase and will lead to the diversification of our export earnings. Then if you look at the power sector reforms, we are gradually seeing improvement in power supply. If eventually that process continues, which it will, you're going to see stable power supply. If you take, for instance, the issue of gas reforms in the petroleum and gas sector, you've seen the government has achieved export parity in terms of price of gas. And I think over time, you're going to see a lot of gas production that will lead to improvement in the power supply, but not just improvement in the power supply, will actually lead to growth of ancillary industry, like petrochemical industry, the plastic industry, that draw their feedstock or their input from the gas sector and the petrochemical sector. So you're going to see eventually improvement in and diversification of the economy. But it is not a short-term thing. It's going to be a medium term. My take is that we'll be talking about 10 years time. But as the areas we can quickly address, issue of institutional weaknesses, issues of infrastructural weaknesses. By the time the government invests, and if I were the president of the country, I would devote the next 4 years to investment in infrastructure. Because the infrastructure has a way of improving your competitiveness and making the cost of doing business lower. So if we can address the issue of primary health and education, those issues can be relatively improved within the next 5 years. Like I said, Nigeria has been able to eradicate guinea worm. We should be able to address the issue of malaria, which is a major weakness in our health value chain. We've seen a lot of some of these childhood diseases being eradicated. Well, we also need to improve on maternal health care. And over time, in the next 5 years, if the government continues in the direction, is when we're going to see some improvement. In terms of market size, our market is already big. And as our economic conditions improve further, we're going to see a bigger market.
So what about the fact that Nigeria is the largest economy in Africa and the 26th largest in the world?
You see, when we talk of largest economy in Africa, it's in terms of relatives, in terms of size, but that does not equate to being the most competitive economy in Africa, or even being among the most attractive economies in Africa. Simple reason is this: in terms of GDP per capita, Nigeria still ranks very low because we have a huge population. So, but in terms of size, we are huge. In terms of potentials, we are there. In terms of opportunities for businesses, Nigeria has one of the best attractive opportunities in Africa.
Now, ahead of the 2015 election, how can the ongoing reform momentum to diversify the economy and increase the country's long-term competitiveness be sustained?
Well, one of the first things that it depends on who wins the election. But I think whoever wins the election in 2015 should not jettison some of the successes or areas of successes we've achieved. In other countries, we've seen presidents employ ministers from the opposition party because they needed to continue with their work. I think somebody like Minister of Economy, Minister of Finance and Economic, what the coordinator of the economy should be retained in whatever cabinet that is formed next after the election. We should also have the Minister of Agriculture back there and the probably Minister of Health. These are some of the shining lights in the current administration, and irrespective of whether government is there, it's either you have them there or you have their policies continued. But the key thing is that these are areas we are seeing improvements in terms of growth. We have seen a lot of improvement in agriculture. We've seen a lot of macroeconomic stabilities, fiscal stability coming from the Minister of Economy. We've seen improvement in primary health care. Yes, we are still very far from where we're going to because of the diversified nature of the country. But we should sustain the momentum in those areas so that we will build on them, and then over a period of time we should have improvements in those sectors.
You're welcome back. The Central Bank of Nigeria says it is working on a draft regulation framework that will enable small business owners borrow money with the use of movable assets like TV sets, radio, and even jewelry.
According to statistics, we have over 17 million MSMEs in Nigeria, and the major constraint is access to finance. So when we have this collateral registry fully goes on live, then it means people can now use their movable assets to access finance from the commercial banks. Any assets, like it could be trinkets, could be television, can be bicycles, can be your car, which ordinarily, these are the set of people that don't have access to finance. But with this program now, they will now be able to register their assets on the registry, so it can now serve as collateral instead of looking for CFO, mighty building mansions to access loan. But with what we are trying to put together now, it means within the shortest possible time, you can now see that a lot of MSMEs will now be able to expand their horizon because of access to sustainable and affordable financing.
As you're aware, movables are the largest chunk of assets owned by MSMEs. So these regulations will provide an institutional and regulatory framework for making those assets available for increased lending to MSMEs. And we felt we should come and share experience with from other countries. Ghana is doing this, Colombia is doing it, and Vietnam with a lot of success, where there's been tremendous leap in lending to MSMEs because of the collateral gap that a registry like this will close. So we are workshopping in the draft regulations, which will be enacted, which will provide the regulatory framework for the financial institutions to be able to do this. And we believe that when this infrastructure is put in place and operated, it will explode, make there to be an explosion in credit to MSMEs in the country.
On this note, we wrap up the program. Please do send us your comments and questions to Business Incorporated at channelstv.com. You can also join me on Twitter. Thank you for watching. I am Bolaji Akinwale.